Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to day 2 of Banana Brawl. This is where we stop monkeying around. This is where the rubber hits the road. My name is Dor, and I'm joined by the always wonderful Moxie to open up today's matches. Up first, we've got YEPEZ going up against Funny Team. And I feel like we couldn't have asked for a better match to start off the day. Mox, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm excited too. I think this one is going to go all the way. Honestly, looking at these teams, looking at the pedigree, looking at the bracket that's gone before, I think we're going to be in for a long one, a bloody one where neither of these teams gives a single inch.
No, and honestly, I think my favorite thing about both of these teams is that they play what they want to. Very often, they're not reacting to what other teams are throwing. They're the ones throwing out the issues. They're the ones trying to drive the car and really choose which way the match goes. Even if they're losing, even if they're playing from behind, the other team is the one who has to adapt. And when these two unstoppable forces kind of just mash into each other, what comes out of the mangled mess that really is going to be this match?
I mean, you've got to look at the bracket, right? You've got to look at previous scorelines, and YEPEZ has just a little bit of an advantage because they freed absolutely everyone that they've met in their path so far. Absolutely blitzed through some of those occasions, and I've got to admit, hand on my heart, support main, I love to see a Zen like Awkward who can 1v1 a Genji. It puts a smile on my face to see every single time. But that's not to say that Funny Team are a little bit further away, right? That gap is still very much closable. They've managed to win every single one of their matches, and they've only dropped one map. That was against Chicken Nuggies yesterday, Lijiang Control Point, in the first part of their series. And so you've got to look at this one. This is going to be the real eye-opener. Are we going to see a Funny Team that are able to take that first control point?
And you know what's funny, Mox? Well, I guess not funny for Funny Team. We're going to Lijiang Tower for our control point map. I don't think they're exactly happy to see it, and I think YEPEZ are very much so. We saw them extremely comfortable running anything with ball in it, whether it's a hog running alongside or something more akin to a Winston and just trying to play full dive on gardens. They look like that's what they want to be running.
I'm going to be very interested to see compositions as well, because, you know, you have a look at control point and you always want to start off and finish with the composition that you actually come out of your spawn gates with, because if you have to swap off, if you lose that first fight, not only are you behind in point percentage, you're also behind in ultimate charges. And when you're running against things like, I don't know, Mei or Zarya's, those ultimates are really impactful. Those pretty much guarantee you an entire team fight. However, we're going to be starting off on Night Market, and this is my personal favorite of all of the maps of Lijiang, because I get to see whether teams lean into the meta, whether they try to go for that really cheeky play where you grab a Symmetra and you just teleport up to high window and try and get yourself a little bit of a cheeky point percentage with those turrets just taking the fight over in your favor, or whether or not you're going to come out with something that is your own game.
Well, let's see exactly what we've got loading into map 1, Mox. You said it, it's Night Market. How much teleporter monkey business do we get? How much of it is going to be trying to play something else? In fact, only one of these teams locking in the teleporter.
Oh, Funny Team have read this like an absolute book, because even if YEPEZ come out with this Symmetra and set themselves up on the point and wait for Funny Team to come to them, you've got Poke! You're going up against a pharmacy that can just rain in damage completely unopposed by an absolute lack of hit scan on the other side.
You know what's crazy too, is Coffee's actually playing Reaper as opposed to the Tracer we've seen him on pretty much every other map.
That is absolutely a very interesting point, and it's a good one too, where you can just get in a little bit easier to that backline, really try and bully that Batiste out of using that very important utility of Immortality Field.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough fight for Funny Team to not just give the point over with. It's all up to Krandop to get on this point, maintain presence on it while that Pharah, the Baptiste, and the Tracer all poke away individually. However, already in a bunch of trouble. Danye is forced to back off the point, but YEPEZ are being collapsed on from all sides right now. The pressure's too much, and Danye is taken down awkward. No speed, less heals for this side, and this Reinhardt is looking like he is in a good bit of hurt. However, it's still YEPEZ in charge of the point.
And they've been able to set the turrets up on that wall as well, so when Funny Team try to move in on that front line, they're going to be taking an absolute bucket load of damage. But YEPEZ, because of all of this poke, they've already got a Coalescence, and that's huge, so much sustain.
It could close things out. They're trying to push out of the point, take down the supports outside right now. It hasn't been the most successful, though. They've only lost Craggy on the way. Monk Mutta still poking her on the side, but remember, in all of the meantime, YEPEZ are going to be the ones taking this point up. Danye finally finding 2, though. I mean, it should be enough to open up this point, and for Funny Team, it absolutely will be.
That's the fight that allows Funny Team to keep the pharmacy. If you lost that fight, even though you had Barrage, you just would not be able to come back into it. Even with a lack of hit scan, you're going into that entire line of YEPEZ. You're going into a Reinhardt shield, a Zarya bubble, and unfortunately Symmetra who's closing in on that ultimate. But now, because you won that fight, you can stay in the sky, you can spam damage from afar. Even ML7 is actually going to go onto the Batiste just to try and counter, to try and discourage Danye from hounding YEPEZ into that spawn corridors.
That's almost the opposite. We'll see with the barrage from over top. Danye is there. He's got Craggy. Not much more, but the Symmetra gone. That opens up the door. And Cafe needs to be the one to close it. He's got one with the Death Blossom. We're trading out ultimates everywhere. It's the bomb over top, though. That's going to close things out for Funny Team.
I mean, when you don't have a shield to have to try and slide that bomb between, it doesn't just become a zoning ultimate. It becomes some serious kill potential. And now Funny Team are going to have that problem, right? The Pharah is going to be extremely exposed if you try to go in for this next fight, especially with ML7 closing in on that amplification matrix where you're just going to get absolutely shredded.
Yeah, this Photon Barrier alone can be huge, right? The Pharah has to play around it, but it's so difficult, even with the Graviton Surge on point. YEPEZ, they're looking to take this one over quickly and start racking up percentage in the meantime. With Monk Mudda gone, a lot of the potential to even contest it is just gone for Funny Team. They're going to back off.
Oh, YEPEZ are able to keep a hold of amplification matrix too. That's huge. If they can even get the stagger on the support lineup too, more percentage guaranteed.
I love the aggression right now from YEPEZ. They're pushing for extra kills. They're getting extra percentage. They weren't careful enough, though, because down goes Hardblue. Grandop's going to get the better of him for the time being. And now Funny Team going to look to re-engage with this ever so slight numbers advantage. Soundberry, though, from YEPEZ to try and allow them to push out and maybe find a frag here, but they haven't seen anybody much yet until Gustav's gone down. Now without the Mercy, they can rest for a moment. All they need to do is just take the pressure of Danye or take Danye down to just hold on some time more.
But remember, YEPEZ did invest both support ultimates in that fight. They've only got a Shatter and pretty soon a Pulse Bomb. Funny Team are sensing blood in the water. They're going to be able to use this Hammond Mine wall straight over to point, guarantee that you zone YEPEZ out of it, and even potentially push them into Danye's barrage.
That's exactly what they're looking for. I mean, there's so many deadly ultimates up Funny Team right now. It's all about the staging, all about not losing anybody on your way. And remember, ML7, Kafi, they've all been hunting down this Pharah, but the mines finally end to open things up, forced out on the side of the point. But Danye's not there to finish off. Danye's not there to receive. It's going to be a Shatter for a re-engage. Danye and back over top. He's only got a shock for his troubles, and Kafi's going to trade it out. Oh my lord, the DPS are going nuts. The Photon Barrier chucked up to defend the supports in the back corner of the point. It's working beautifully for YEPEZ.
The Symmetra turrets are actually the ones to take Gustav out, and that goes to show you just how much pressure Funny Team were under to try and capitalize, to try and actually land that barrage. They got so desperate, they just had to ignore those deployables and go for the picks, and unfortunately it does not work out for them. YEPEZ, with that Symmetra composition, able to continuously run it all the way through the rounds, pick up Night Markup.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Playing into that much poke is really, really difficult, but as we head over to Gardens, things are going to change drastically, to say the least.
Absolutely. You're still going to have a little bit of an aerial fight, but now it's going to come from both sides because you really do have to grab up that space. Because think about it like this, right? When you're trying to come towards the point and you're going up against something like an Echo, you can't go bridge because you're going to take so much spam damage. And if you go side room, you're risking yourself getting environmentally knocked aside by a hamster and a wrecking ball.
Look, Moxie, let's be real. This fight is going to take ages to finish. No matter who ends up on top, it's going to take a little bit of elbow grease or just taking down Heart. Grandop, what a way to assert your dominance at the beginning of this match. Just knock the other guy. All right. Well, we'll take that. That should be a lot of point pressure for Funny Team.
A lot of ult charge too. Remember, you get the health bar that's remaining on the member that you knock off, and so 63% already gathered up for Grandop to hit that first mine.
Oh no, but they got greedy. They pushed out looking for another kill after taking out the Wrecking Ball. But Craigy's going to take down Danye for that. And that's a really tricky situation for the red side. But taking out one of the supports is really going to help them. It's going to allow them to win the sustain battle on point, allow them to live longer and stagger out so they can get their spawns in and win this fight by taking out the tanks.
I mean, even more significantly though, they were able to do all that and still keep a presence on the point. So YEPEZ don't even manage to grab percentage, can't even try and stall themselves into keeping that percentage holding on up. Instead, Funny Team are the ones to grab it. Funny Team are the one who can now stall for absolute eternity on this point when YEPEZ come calling.
YEPEZ now around the side of the point. It's inevitable, right? The ball's gonna get on there, spin to win. You guys know how it is, but Monk Mutta, you can smell it on him. He wants his pulse bomb. You can see him back there, but Danye is the one who actually goes down first. The pulse bomb connects onto the flying Echo. Resurrect through pulse bomb to trade out, and all of a sudden it's Funny Team turning this fight right around in their favor.
YEPEZ just don't have access to the ultimate they need right now. Craggy went down with the duplication, and so Funny Team get to keep a hold of this point. Cappy's trying to do anything, just try and upset the balance, take away one of those supports, maybe even bully out that sound barrier that Slimajit has been clutching for a very long time, because that duplication means absolutely nothing until that Lucio ultimate has been parted from Funny Team. Otherwise they just have too much sustain. YEPEZ just don't have kill potential right now.
Yeah, Funny Team are playing this fantastically, both absorbing pressure and putting it on all at the right moments, backing away from the points for when the mines are thrown in. It's Harblue for YEPEZ, trying to gain them a bit of point presence. The sound barrier to allow Funny Team to engage, though, is going to be big. They have next to nothing to try and finish this fight off, except for Danye's duplicate. Meanwhile, YEPEZ, they've still got gas in the tank, they've still got ultimates, but they need to win this fight cleanly, and taking out Sir Majid is the first step in doing so. Danye now running out of duplicate time. This fight is getting really, really tough for Funny Team to win.
You don't necessarily need to win it if you're YEPEZ either. Remember, on all of that Brawl, you actually managed to get the flip. So the longer this fight goes on, the better position you are in. You're able to separate Funny Team off it with Hardly's Hammer Mines, and now reap the rewards.
Yeah, they're going to be getting percentage during all this time. Funny Team, they need to be careful they don't waste too much time here. Monk Bottle will trade out one, but I mean, that's really not worth it in the grand scheme of things, right? That's just going to be an easy respawn.
Especially because they've only managed to buy up 65%. It's not final fight territory. They can't just do the thing so often we see teams do, where you just lose so many fights in a row until you feel happy enough. You've got 6 ultimates to come in and absolutely just blitz through the other team who, because they're in that position where they can't lose a single fight, have got to keep throwing ultimates at the wall and hope that they stick.
Well, let's see what Funny Team can get up to. It's mines on the bridge. This is an interesting play from Harblue, and it seems like it's really only going to buy time for YEPEZ as they just stage themselves right around them, reposition. They'll catch Danye, though. The team got split up by those mines, and it's a mishmash push from Funny Team that's been split apart every which way by the dive of YEPEZ, doing it perfectly.
It's a chain of delay as well coming out from YEPEZ. They're using those hammer mines on the bridge to buy time for Shock to be able to hit this primal rage. They're not playing for the fight they're currently in, they're playing for the future. They know they just have to keep going onto the point.
This is gorgeous right now from YEPEZ, keeping themselves unavailable for being dove. Meanwhile, Funny Team struggling to make their way forward. Crandop's the first to go again before the fight even gets a solid chance to start. Shock now at the primal rage. This contest gets even worse. We're at 90% marks. It's last fight territory, and Funny Team, well, they don't have their entire Funny Team.
Well, Funny Team will be able to tap, and all you have to do is buy time for your Hammond and Echo to come in. They're the ones with ultimates. They're the ones who can flip the fights.
Danye's duplicate is going to be so important here. Krandop's got one with mines, evening up the numbers a little bit here for the red side, but the duplicated Wrecking Ball creates mines of their own, and that's going to create some serious issues for trying to come in and recontest this team for Funny Team. Luckily, though, they've got a primal rage to try and close things out here. YEPEZ finally off of the point, at least for a moment. Overtime still going down, though.
YEPEZ still sticking around. Remember, they've still got their usual hammer mines. The primal rage has run out for Shock, but unfortunately for Funny Team, so too have their ult banks.
Funny Team, though, beginning to tick up the point. They're winning the fight through sheer target focus alone. It's going to be a pile driver on point, just trying to find those extra picks, but it's all sorts of a clown fiesta here. YEPEZ, though, are the ones with DPS, so the ones with kill potential. There's a Reaper back in and on point. He's a real threat to Shock, and if he could take out this Winston, he could gain them back the point. In fact, they have. They've gotten rid of Shock, and they've gotten themselves a solid chance of taking this one.
That Reaper pick is the absolute turning table right there. You have the Reaper, you can completely negate bridge, you can really pressure out both Shock and Harblue, who are just meaty, chunky targets for those two twin shotguns, and even if you lose your supports, you've got the self-sustain, you've got your own self-heal. And now if you're YEPEZ, you're in that really precarious position where Funny Team with the dive can just keep stalling themselves like to 99%.
Oh, it's a dangerous bomb over top. ML7 is forced to play so far away. They're playing effectively one support down right now, but they're still taking away the fight. Finzy's down, traded out for Harblue. Red Team's gonna be taking that one any day of the week, but a great res from Awkward allows their tank back up and into the fight. It's turning into yet another mess of ultimates on the point as there's mines absolutely everywhere. More from Craigie though, as the duplicate wears thin. It's going to be the point gained from YEPEZ. Not quite ticked over, but they've got so much pressure now. They should be able to do it eventually with the help of these mines. They're running out of sports though. Awkward fell off the map. Harblue's down. Funny Team may have just stolen this one away.
Gustav's able to pop the Valkyrie as well. The chain healing connecting to the entire team, keeping them alive through Shock's Primal. Cappy's got a pulse bomb, but what can you do? Funny Team able to even up the scoreboards, and I told you, I said it would be a long one. Not necessarily reflected in the scores, but judging on how long these teams are stalling out, we may be here for a couple of hours yet.
I mean, okay, it's a typical day at Lijiang Garden is pretty much what we saw, especially with 2 Wrecking Balls in the mix. I mean, it just turns into such long contests being thrown about everywhere. But here, well, there's a little bit less of that dive to be played, unless Funny Team want to change things up.
Yeah, it's less dive and much more spam compositions where you just try and come in with a Reinhardt Desire, use that Lucio speed boost to get in as fast as possible, and then break the other Rein's heart, and then shield with that Junkrat spam damage. Funny Team are going for a different sort of spam damage. It's a very risky one. They're splitting the support, so you have to have that BAP just to make sure everyone on the front line stays alive. But it's gonna really pay out for you because who's gonna hit the Pharah?
Yeah, Funny Team are looking to split the angles right now, right? Get the Pharah spamming at the back line, get the Soldier spamming at the Reinhardt shield in the front, and just don't let them move out on the point, because point's so open that all of the spam is going to have so much free space. You can see already Danye is just causing havoc from above. The tanks can't move forward without running into a whole boatload of damage, and Craigie is going to be the one to open things up. YEPEZ lessening the pressure just a little bit here, but Monk Mud on the opposing high ground is putting out absurd amounts of DPS. The Helix Rockets finish off Craigie, crammed up onto Harblu, and all of a sudden, this isn't looking like as much of a Reinhardt map, Moxie.
I mean, it's the soul composition, isn't it? Where you just grab a Pharah and try and bait the other team onto fighting on point, and even if they don't go onto point, they just close themselves up in these corridors and you just allow that Pharah to go absolutely ham with spam damage. Funny Team's even moving in to really try and pressure YEPEZ, try and pull a little bit and really pick even that immortality field out from this team before they can properly try and contest.
It's been a long time since we've seen someone force YEPEZ to play a different composition, but Craigie swaps off onto the Soldier, going to be giving Danye hell in the skies right now. In fact, ML7 taking down that pocket support is going to mean real problems for the red side. Funny Team now stuck back in a corner, no space to work with, but they've got an amplification matrix to try and fight their way back out. Vinci has got a Harblu taking away a lot of the damage of the blue side, but YEPEZ have so much point presence that they should be able to take this one back over in their favor.
Yeah, Funny Team really tried to invest quite heavily to make sure that they won that fight. Amplification matrix used just to try and buy space for Danny to come back in, because that's the risk when you run this Pharah. YEPEZ are not just going to allow you to walk straight back onto the point. You have to take the longer wrap around and try and pressure them out, take those flips off angles yet again.
Oh, and a big pick onto Danye. Craigie is not letting him go anywhere outside, and now with Monk Mudda down, it's going to be an even longer stagger for Funny Team.
Especially because, the rest does come through, but you lose practically everybody else on your team. So Funny Team, they're just going to be trying to poke away, try and bait out some of these ultimates, but YEPEZ are playing so far away, they're not going to fall for it.
I mean, this is what you and I were talking about before the match. There's so much individual skill that these random little picks can really just come from anywhere when it comes to YEPEZ. They've got so many little tips and tricks that they use to just get through these matches, but this next fight, there's so many ultimates available, yet they go down without using any. Craigie dies to the Helix Rockets of Monk Mudda, which opens up the door for Crandop to come in the back line, drop the mines, and you're stuck between a rock and a very, very explosive place if you're YEPEZ right now. Pushing forward, though, into the rock, they take down Monk Mudda, Surmajin next, and fight their way back through Funny Team to hold on to the point.
But how many ultimates are YEPEZ investing in this one though? Shatter, Graviton, Pulse, Soundfire, even Tackvisor right now. All to
Oh
make
my
sure
god, they're
they
throwing
can
in the
win
kitchen
this
sink.
fight. Window as well. That's 5 up. That is 6 ultimates in one fight. If you're Funny Team, it's not final fight territory. You can still come back. You can pressure this team. You can make them pay for being that aggressive.
I mean, but Funny Team threw in their trust fund as well. Their economy is damn well ruined.
Well, they need to be able to hit their ultimates faster than YEPEZ. You are going to have a race right now, because if Danny is able to hit that Bob, you can do exactly what Funny Team have been trying to do the entire round. Pull attention from YEPEZ back to that point to allow you safely to get through coach, which is something you need, especially when you've got Zenyatta. in your midst. But if you're YEPEZ, you're building up to that shatter. There's not a shield for them to hide behind. It is a free ultimate if you can get close enough.
No, and the pick train hasn't stopped yet. Danye finally fighting back, though, giving Funny Team the space that they needed to push through this point, especially with no tanks in the way. This should be them regaining control, getting some more percentage up on the board, but at 99%, things are still dicey for the red side.
Funny Team were able to hit that alt race, though. Danye's got the Bub. We've got the Transcendence too, so even when YEPEZ start to stack these very aggressive ultimates, you're going to have to do it in a way where you bait that ult from the Zenyatta out first to make one of these more powerful than the others, which can potentially flop.
Yeah, potentially both of these support ultimates can be extremely important for Funny Team, because realistically, YEPEZ, they've only got one survival ultimate in the form of the Soundbird, but it's not even up yet. Funny Team have a chance to win this one, but they've already popped both at the same time! Moxie, Gustav, and Sir Majid not communicating well enough in comms. They need to win the fight here and now, otherwise they're not going to have the sustain to get through it. Krandov's only got ML7 for it. The Soundbird is still up for YEPEZ, but they may not even have to use it. They pushed in after the Transcendence, after the Valkyrie was used, and taking control of the point in overtime to go ahead and take themselves away, possibly a map 1.
That sustain ran out, even though Funny Team are still trying to stagger onto this point, still trying to stall this one out, though they just don't have the ultimates in the bank. It is going to take an absolute miracle bomb, but since he's going to be able to hit it, you still got to worry about the rain shield.
The staggers are in vain, Moxie. At this point, at this level of play, I mean, the target focus is going to be too good. They're going to clean these up in no time. Tick down OT and take themselves away a map 1 for YEPEZ.
Oh my goodness. If you're Funny Team, you had victory in your sets. You had 2 support ultimates, and you stacked them! That is the absolute worst thing that you can do, because you can see, YEPEZ, they were going to bully out the Transcendence, and then Gustav throws the Valk in, and all of YEPEZ are like, don't mind if we do! And they just move forward. They keep a hold of their aggressive ultimates. Once that Transcendence and Valk are out, they keep a hold of Tag Visor. So then they put it in once those 2 support ultimates have clocked out. And suddenly, Funny Team, they haven't been able to win the fight. They haven't been able to use those support ultimates to tip the scales. And they just don't have enough sustain left to stand up to snuff.
I mean, realistically, how many clean fights did we even see in that map, right? Okay, so we had Night Market, where most of the fights were relatively controlled. Teams were backing off, going in as 6, and then Gardens was just one big long fight. And then over on Control Center, I'm pretty sure it was one fight at the beginning, and then it was just YEPEZ finding pick after pick after pick after pick. Get themselves up to 99%. From there, it's just save up ultimates and chuck them out later.
It sort of felt as well that Funny Team took a very long time to actually change their composition. They really quite rigidly tried to stick to that pharmacy because they got a lot of value when it had control of the space. But as soon as you become that intruder, as soon as you have to wrap around the back of point, the second you actually go past that mega health pack and you try to move from the ledge onto the point, you are so vulnerable. You don't have that ledge that you can try and stand behind up above server room, right? So all that the soldier on the other side has to do is turn around. And these players, they will turn around.
Yeah, and as good as the communication has been, clearly there is a bit of an issue with the support ultimates at the very final one. You know, Mox, I think it may have just been an issue of them not being able to hear each other cleanly enough. I really think they should have been using TeamSpeak like we are. This tournament has been helped and, you know, assisted by TeamSpeak sponsoring the whole thing. We're hearing each other crisp, clean, and clear. You know what, Moxie? I wish the support lineup could have said the same. Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes static just gets in the way. You know, those Overwatch comms, everyone talks about it. Game comms are just notorious for not being quite up to scratch. But I mean, talking of not quite up to scratch, we obviously have a little bit of an advantage now headed over to YEPEZ side. Yet again, they've been able to take that first point, and yet again, Funny Team have lost that point on control again on Lijiang. So now headed into Iconvold, you can still sort of run the things that Funny Team tried to work, especially on the open space of point A, right? Where they tried to stick with that far, and you can find a lot of value with the openness of this point and all of the places that teams really do have to brute force their way through. That very first choke that is so notorious that even made the developers have to add in a different alleyway after the map was released for people to stop complaining.
Certainly going to be a little bit of a rough one here for Funny Team, pushing through that first choke, but what's the composition that they choose to go with to get through it? They're back on the Pharah.
It is the attack, though, so we can take a look at, you know, the team that we know are going to be coming out with this composition, and that's the defense. Yep, easy. They're doing it! Craggy is... Nope, there he goes. Craggy is coming out on the Genji, proving that teams can debate you even with their defending compositions as much as their attacking compositions. But this is going to be a lot of debate when it comes to tactics as well, because you're running that Ana. You really do have to find value with the nano boost, especially because the second that Funny Team are able to actually get close to this backline, there's not going to be a lot of peel in place. You've got to be able to keep yourself alive. Pablo's bubble is pretty much 99% going to be guaranteed reserved for Shock to get safely in, and that means that Awkward and ML7 have got to keep their own skin intact.
I mean, you said it best yesterday when we were talking about Awkward and how devastating that Zenyatta can be. The dive's going to be great from Funny Team, but can it contest all the damage YEPEZ are about to throw their way? We'll find out in a second as they're all stuck in mini room. Just a bit of poke damage being thrown out either way. Shock not wanting to let them out, but Krandop looking to put them in an awkward position. Monkmada up on the high ground, poking away at these supports, but not getting enough done. Krandop's down. They're slowly bleeding out in this fight to YEPEZ's poke.
Monkmada just cannot make Awkward lose that focus either. Turns around, dinks a couple of orbs their way, and then immediately back to focusing on the team. So that was what Funny Team were really waiting for the Zenyatta's attention to be completely occupied before the dive can move in. But because it's just not happening, they're being shoeboxed into these side rooms, and that's setting up Pablo and Shock for this cleave to come through.
Yeah, and I like what YEPEZ are doing, right? They're very reserved right now, just playing around the clock tower, playing to what they know. That Discord orb is being very, very dangerous on the Wrecking Ball. Krandop drops so low, he has to back off, but that leaves his whole team open to get wiped right now by Coffee and Shock. D.Va over top, barely gonna get out with her life, but it's a fantastic fight neutral game from YEPEZ.
The dive just can't come through cleanly right now. Guess I've even had to use that valve just to try and get everyone out as safely as possible so that they weren't just giving ultimate charge over to YEPEZ, who, yes, did use that nano boost, but are now about to come into a whole host of ultimates all at the same time. And I'm worried. They've got the Graviton. They're about to hit the Pulse Bomb. Finzi, a lot of attention is going to come onto this D.Va. You have to be able to defense matrix at least one of these ults. Symmetra does not have the Transcendence yet.
Yeah, potentially just an ultimate. They could win this entire thing. They'll take out the Zenyatta, and historically that one pick has been enough for them to take away the fight, and Craggy is going to clean up more after that. Awkward had his Transforce out, so it's a little bit more than YEPEZ wanted to use in that fight, but they're happy to take it away.
Funny Team now have a win condition. If Monkmada is able to do something we haven't seen all round, get to this backline safely and be able to approach this Zenyatta, actually use this Pulse Bomb to take him out, then Funny Team can really have this dive come in strong, especially with that forest member of the Bob.
More contest means more power. Monkmada making that numbers advantage. Even better now by taking out Coffee. Waiting for the Bob to be deployed on point, though. That's going to be the real tell. You know what, they want to force out the Sleep Dart before they manage to do so, but they're finding all the picks they need. Sans ultimates right now. The Bob and the Pulse Bomb are going to be enough to open up the fight cleanly, and Funny Team looked like they just cruised onto point.
They were finally able to draw the attention away. They were finally able to separate and split YEPEZ into these little pocket duels, and when you're running up against Dive and you're 1 versus 3, that's always uneven numbers. That's always a disadvantage, but YEPEZ are coming back with advantages of their own.
They're far from done with this, but there's so much damage up for Funny Team right now that even with the duplicate here, YEPEZ don't have much of a shot at the contest. They've got one support trying to keep up 2 tanks right now, and without any sort of primal rage to keep themselves alive, it's really only the duplicate doing so. It's a lot of time off the clock, but for Funny Team, it's also a lot of ultimate percentage.
Yeah, for Funny Team as well, they kept a hold of those ultimates. YEPEZ invested heavily in that one, trying to just force Funny Team into reciprocating in time. Right, you're going into point B phase of Eichenwald, and so the second that the defense is actually able to win a fight, they get given access to that high ground. They get to lord over Funny Team as they come out from these gates, as they come out from these very easy, clear to pin down sight lines. And so the second you win that fight, you get a massive big old leg up in the entire rest of the map. Unfortunately, Funny Team didn't fall for it. They kept a hold of ultimates of their own, and now they're the ones who can really aggressively challenge YEPEZ for this high ground.
Yeah, and that's the big question, is who's going to be challenging who? Is YEPEZ going to be dropping down? Absolutely. Contest the cart, focus on these supports. They have abilities to get out if they need to, but they've also got a ton of damage in a very, very precariously positioned Thermagen, who's forced to use Transcendence just to keep the fight alive, but it's winning the team fight so far until the Pulse Bomb comes in. My lord, Coffee, give him a break. Take down the rest of the supports, and YEPEZ are going to be stabilizing.
That was the fight. That was the condition that we talked about. YEPEZ threw in absolutely everything they had at their disposal, but it now means that Craggy on this soldier gets to go absolute ham with the sightlines. Yes, Downy is going to be damage boosted. Yes, that means you have one tap potential, but Craggy is trying to build up to this visor. You're going to have Nano to give it extra oomph. Just use that Transcendence. You can use this towards to win a fight.
Yeah, Shock's now in on the backline, trying to give this Ash hell, and it's working. He's making space for the soldier. Now on the high ground. Remember, all this time, the DPS are using the high ground to put in absurd amounts of damage. Craigy's coming in to clean things up, and while Funny Team fight back a couple more frags here, it shouldn't be enough to gain them any more card presence. Especially because YEPEZ now have hit those two ultimates. Craggy has got the Tac Visor. The only thing that stands in this team's way of using it right now is Finzy's Mac. Finzy's got a chance to try and just chuck a self-destruct over top, but for Funny Team, I mean, they haven't ever gained control of this high ground. I mean, you can try and use that Diva Bomb, right? Chuck it over the top, try and force YEPEZ down so that the Tac Visor doesn't have as much space, doesn't see as many members as it should. It's going to be a Primal Ray, pardon me, a Nano Boosted Monkey in over top, and he's done enough damage. He may get traded out here, but now Craigy's in coming from behind. Funny Team have been completely wrapped around, surrounded, and collapsed on from this high ground. That, again, is just giving YEPEZ such an advantage in these fights. That pincer movement, it was so sweet, it was so clean. Finzy had used all of the defense matrix in the fight in front of their eyes, and so you didn't have anything left when Craggy actually used that ult behind the team, and they were just pushed kited right into it. And now you've got 30 seconds left, you've got a Diva Bomb, but that's all you really have, and that Diva Bomb has to hit hard. Then you have the chance to be able to hit Transcendence, but until then, you don't have that kill pick that YEPEZ do. Very little time left for Funny Team, and I can promise you they want more card progress than this. Finally making an attempt at taking away his high ground. Craigy's down, the bane of their existence, now out of their way. Caffey's searching around for a little something onto the back line here. But the Zenyatta of Funny Team is having absolutely nothing of it. Taking down Shock, taking down the dive, giving themselves, well, I won't call it breathing room, but at least wheezing room as the trance is forced out. Oh no! That's awful for Sir Majid. Do you know what's even worse though? Orchid's about to hit a Transcendence of his own. And now if you're Funny Team, you've got to reciprocate. You've got to be able to bully that Transcendence out. Craggy's even got onto the Widowmaker just to try and challenge Funny Team to make sure that they stay behind the payload, that they can't move forward aggressively and risk their supports getting dunked in the head. It's going to be so difficult for Funny Team. They've got a couple of ultimates to hold this one out though. The Valkyrie is at least going to be a nice support ultimate, but the Visor coming in for the backlines, what you really want to be scared of right now. Danye's got the deals to get the Ds. Craigy over top. Oh no! No one's contesting the card right now! Okay, 2.51 meters left. Funny Team almost through point B, almost reaching that extra time bank, and in fact, they've managed to. The full dive from YEPEZ wasn't enough to take out the back line. Danya keeps a hold of Tac Visor until Awkward uses Transcendence, and as soon as he sees that go, he pops Tac Visor, and half the team of YEPEZ have just got to dive him. The Winston bubble comes out, they try and make sure that he isn't able to use that ultimate to clear the payload, and unfortunately for them, the rest of Funny's team are more than capable of doing just that. Now though, you only have 1 minute 3 seconds, and the second you lose a single one of these fights, all of that spawn advantage, all of that really close back end fight action goes over to YEPEZ. And this is a very risky Transcendence. They want to win this fight here and now, but only trading one out for both of their tanks really isn't going to be worth it for them. However, Monkbot taking down the supports, the Resurrect's through. Funny Team may have turned this fight around. They've pushed through the choke, but Craigy's still a problem playing around this corner and still pumping out damage on the legs. Well, you talk about still pumping out damage. That's exactly what we're going to be seeing coming out from the defense. Funny Team have got to just walk all the way through this main road, and you can already see Craggy just trying to poke away, trying to build up that Tac Visor. Yeah, I mean, the Tac Visor is nice, but what I'm looking at right now is the ultimate charge for Awkward. He's building up towards the Transcendence, and in 15 seconds, I mean, that could be enough to win the fight, much less the map right now. It pushing in, though. It's finally going to be a Tac Visor from Craigy. Awkward cleaning up, too, my lord. The headshots everywhere from the Chrome Dome. Zenyatta, he's looking to finish this one off cleanly, not let him all the way through Eichenwald, and it seems they may have been successful in doing so. YEPEZ, despite their best efforts on point B, are going to be holding on point C.
Yeah, the overtime is still ticking, but it is very unlikely, nigh impossible. The Funny Team are going to be able to make a comeback in that one, and a lot of it too is down to the fact that they just did not have enough time to brute force their way through C. The only way that you can properly, if you only have 1 minute left in the bank, manage to just storm your way from that second checkpoint all the way to the finish line is if you have enough ultimates behind you to really force that defense back, to make sure that they can't just control, choke, and control main and poke and prod away at you from afar to pick themselves up easy picks or easy ultimate charge. And for Funny Team, because they used absolutely everything in that overtime, Herculean effort on B, they just did not have enough in the bank to really stand up when YEPEZ decided to bowl them over. Now, though, a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a respite, and we can look at a little bit more to the future and when these teams swap, what exactly they're going to be coming in with.
Yeah, I think despite their point B performance, I think they made the best of that push that they could with the time bank that they were given, I suppose, by themselves. But yeah, you're right. Now on the attacking side, YEPEZ, this is kind of where they've thrived so far, right? Where they can choose their engagements, where they can choose how they want to take these fights. Not to mention, Coffee's Tracer could really break apart a backline.
Absolutely, because that was the thing that Funny Team really struggled with to unlock point A, right? They just weren't able to bully that backline with the Tracer. You weren't able to win the duel against Awkward. And so now with your so much edge, you've got to step into those same shoes. You've got to be able to keep yourself safe, because the second the team actually has to peel back for you, then all of YEPEZ are just going to see that space as absolute free retail and take a big old step forward.
And it's interesting seeing both teams run dive here yet again when YEPEZ were the ones winning the neutral game most of the time when they were playing defense.
You want mobility right now. You want to make sure that YEPEZ don't force you into those little pockets like we saw when the Funny Team were just relegated to side rooms on their attack. Now they're the ones with the defense, they're the ones who can really dictate where the fight goes, but you've got to actually do that by initiating.
YEPEZ now is staging to take this point, not wanting to overcommit to a dive at this point, because you don't want to run into the Discord from the Zenyatta, but they've already lost Hard Blue and Awkward. It's a beautiful little push out from Funny Team, pushing around both sides of the bell tower, and it's worked out perfectly. Monk Mudda's got two, and they go out with a fair bit of ultimate charge as well as time off the clock.
Danny is doing such a good job as well of keeping Craggy in check. In fact, Craggy has had enough. In one push is off the Echo and is on to the Soldier. ML7 going to be swapping on over to the Ana. So you want to build up to that Nano. You want to put that one onto Shock's behind so he can jump in, have a little bit more safety and create a little bit more space. But that means you're going to be waiting just a little bit longer.
I love this Ashe, though, from Danye. It's such a gut check to the support lineup of YEPEZ, right? They don't want to respect sidelines. They want to go out and do damage. Well, welcome to my damage-boosted Ashe, and then just puts in a boatload of damage that the tanks can then push in, finish off. Krandop and Finzi have been doing that literally every single time, just poking right out of this main choke point, looking for the right opportunity to finish up on what their DPS started.
And because that Ana is kept in check by the Ashe, she hasn't been able to build up the Nano as fast as YEPEZ want, right? Shock taking all of this damage has not been able to turn into Nano Charge.
Finally, though, it's a proper dive all the way onto Surmaja. It's a gut check for the red side now. We're just trading blows back and forth. The support lineup goes down 99% to Trance as well. It's all up to Gustav to try and hold this with the Valkyrie, but they get the Resurrect off. It may have not been enough, though, as the blue side's pushing in with multiple picks. Yes, Surmaja gets back, but the Trance is just far too late. Moxie, Danye's gonna have to put in a boatload of work to hold on to this one.
YEPEZ though have currently been zoned off of this point, and that's a Winston bubble just used though. Finzi is so close to that Diva Bomb. If it comes out, all of YEPEZ are just gonna have to take a step back.
That's the thing though, YEPEZ are just waiting for the right opportunity to push in. They've had a man advantage for a long time. They're just waiting for a good position. Hardblue will take himself down though in the midst of trying to take out Danye. Finally taken down though. It's going to give them point presence enough to take it over themselves with just a shade over 140 on the clock.
You can practically hear the comms as well coming out from YEPEZ. Hold on to Nano, hold on to Tag Visor. Those are the two ultimates that you can use to lock up that really precious high ground, because Funny Team just don't have anything to really properly contest it at the moment. And Donye wants to be on that high ground, wants to be using that damage boosted Ashe to really once again zone YEPEZ supports out. But it's just not going to happen if you're being Nano Tag Visored on.
I mean, they've got another pretty good ult for trying to take that high ground as well in the Primal Rage just to knock everybody off. But Shock's in a world of hurt right now as the entirety of Funny Team has dropped onto, but he's made the space. He's got the Primal Rage up on the high ground, and YEPEZ here going to be able to push off the back of this, even without picks. This has made so much room, and he's already got 2 with it. I mean, I didn't think he'd get anything, but that bridge is just brutal for Funny Team.
And you know what's going to be brutal for Funny Team in this next push? We've got a grab, we've got a pulse bomb, we've got a lovely old combo that everyone these days is calling the big old bang. And so Finzi has got to use this defense matrix. We haven't seen a grab yet, we haven't seen a pulse bomb yet, and we're not going to see either at the moment. Pulse bomb is already used.
YEPEZ in over top. There's no pulse bomb connected to this, but they don't need it. It was only a grab onto Danye, which effectively, it takes out the Ashe, but also the Mercy's kind of left without stuff to do other than healer team, try and keep them up. The cart's not making progression right now, but YEPEZ are making a lot of space.
Danye's even going to go onto the soldier just to try and get back into this fight a little bit faster and have more self-sustain so that the Mercy and Zen is just not put under the same amount of strain when they get dove on by Kathy's Tracer.
Don't forget, Funny Team have a big spawn advantage right now. YEPEZ need to win this one cleanly and concisely. Pulse bomb in. Big miss, though, for them. They've got the frags anyway as Gustav's down. The self-destruct over the point takes out Awkward. It's got them enough to maybe take this one. No, 2.51 again on the opposite side of the map this time. But Craigie on the bridge is just completely uncontested on this soldier and has got enough space to work with that he can clean up this cart.
They've got time to work with as well, Joe, and that's the crucial thing. They don't have only a minute. They can afford to lose a couple of these fights. They can afford to step off that payload just a little bit longer than Funny Team. And now we're really going to see YEPEZ try to move forward aggressively. Symmetry, yes, he's got the Transcendence, but the real turn might be Monk Mada's Reaper yet again.
Monk Mada's in, looking to ruin their day with a couple of pellets to the dome, but Coffee opens things up. Danye's already gone. The Resurrect's there, but the tanks aren't getting enough support now, and it's Krandop down. It's just a Wrecking Ball. No Zarya even to hold on to this point. They're going to have to make some swaps to even get a contestant, but YEPEZ are cleaning this one up beautifully. The only thing contesting is going to be the Valkyrie from the Mercy, but with her out of the way, that's it. YEPEZ clean up a map number 2 on Eichenwald.
Oh boy. YEPEZ taking us to that match point with a lovely dive. They struggled a little bit, but we saw the adaptation come in immediately. As soon as they saw that they were getting zoned out, as soon as they saw that Funny Team were just trying to increase the amount of time that the dive had to wait before they could actually move in, we saw the Lucio swap. And as soon as the Lucio came into the action, we saw an absolute different dive. They were able to close up the distance far faster. Shock wasn't completely burnt out by a damage boosted Ashe in a matter of seconds, and they were able to start that payload moving and keep it moving all the way through to the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, the Ashe changed everything about what YEPEZ had to do, but I feel like the adaptation was even better, because you could see they started out the round playing how they did on the defensive side, you know, just poking away, looking to try and win the neutral game before either team actually goes for a proper dive, and that just wasn't going to happen with that damage boosted Ashe watching all the sightlines. You said it, they locked in a Lucio, clean up the rest of these frags, and from then, I mean, the momentum didn't stop. Look at Shock. I want to appreciate that little replay that we got earlier. Did you see how quickly he bursted down poor Danye on the Ashe? Like, I dream of being able to do that on Winston one day, because that was one of the most ridiculous combos I've ever seen, and quite frankly, it won them a majority of point B.
I mean, we're even now going to get to see some really nice play coming out from Shock, right? Here's Winston, his primals. The juggles are so clean. Whenever he wants to bully a player out of space, like on high ground or when they're in a cramped up corridor, he just pops the primal and goes to work. I don't want to imagine how many hours this guy has on Winston, but my goodness, I wish I played half as well as him.
I mean, think about him powered up though, right? Imagine you win Banana Brawl. Imagine you reach that massive pile of plantains at the end, right? How powerful could his monkey be then? Oh my god, just watching it, that's brutal. That is absurd.
Yep. Did you see as well when he decided to juggle the bob off the side of the map, the bob that was really posing quite a lot of trouble? Just there it went. And there it goes, right off of the side into the moat. Like, guys are really good, Winston. And not only that, we've also seen today and yesterday him really juggle around like the tank rolls, and that's something that you really want in this meta diversity, because we're seeing it from both of these teams. You have to be able to adapt to what the other side brings. It's a conversation. It's a little bit of a debate. One person starts off with a whisper and the other one yells in their ear.
Well, you're gonna have to yell a long way because the sight lines are plentiful here on Junkertown. We're heading over there next, the land of the snipers. And Moxie, both of these teams like doing very particular things here.
Oh, I love this one. I love what they run out with on Junkertown. I absolutely adore it. So first off, let's dig into YEPEZ, the compositions that they like to run on Junkertown, and it's going to surprise a lot of people. It's Orisa Roadhog. We thought it was gone. We thought we would never see it again, but no, it's back. And they actually run it for a really good reason. So when YEPEZ approach Junkertown, they like to think of each fight individually in their roles. The supports are meant to help the supports, the DPS are meant to help the DPS, and the tanks are meant to help, you guessed it, the tanks. So if the tanks are being a little bit pressured on, you've got the Orisa, you've immediately got the Roadhog there to come in with that hook and yank away whoever's pressuring. You look at the DPS, and this is something that we don't really see a lot of. Kathy off of the Tracer likes to go onto the Hanzo for this one. And that's because you have that double pressure, right? The Widowmaker, the Hanzo, because you're not running something like a Wrecking Ball to bully out the other Widowmaker, you've got to be able to win that DPS duel yourselves. And you're going to do that by doubling up the frat, making sure that the Widowmaker cannot just focus on one DPS, instead she's got to worry about two.
You know what's crazy though is like for all the support and tank line changes that we get on this map, it still doesn't shift away from Widowmaker, which I love. You know, I like that there's a map that references snipers so heavily. But you know what else that means? That means we get to see, well, maybe Danye could play the Widowmaker, but I really want to see Monk Muttaz. I've seen Monk Muttaz a number of times, and every single time, no matter what team he's on, it has impressed me beyond belief. And I honestly think YEPEZ might have a hard time competing with that.
I mean, it depends, right? If Funny Team don't come out with something that contests the Widowmaker and a Hanzo, and they come out with something that really focuses on the frontline fight and keeping the tanks alive rather than trying to help their DPS create space and zone out the other side's DPS, then we might see a very quick Junkertown, because the second you actually lose that fight, the second you give up those sightlines, you change up everything. You have to be so much more cautious, you have to be so much slower in your approach, especially when you're running things like Zenyatta or Ana, where you are so very vulnerable, so very susceptible to Widowmaker or Hanzo headshots.
Well, ladies and gents, we'll see how this match goes in just a second. We'll be back after a quick little halftime break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After a quick little halftime, I hope you all got to go get your potassium-filled snacks on the way, but we're on our way up to a map number 3 on Junkertown. And Moxie, I mean, the compositions are interesting. I've been wanting to see these Widowmakers go 1v1 pretty much all day. These are 2 teams that I would put up against one another in this, and I can't think of a better map to possibly end this series on. I mean, YEPEZ, they've got us up at match point.
I mean, you want to see Widowmakers? I want to see Funny Team be able to start pulling this back, because more Overwatch is always a better Overwatch. And I'm sure Funny Team want to see the exact same thing too, because it is indeed match point. YEPEZ currently sitting at a clean 2-0, looking to continue that streak of 3-0ing every single team they meet on their way through this bracket.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that YEPEZ could actually win this one 3-0. I mean, you look at all their previous results, it's 3-0s all the way, right? That's no surprise, but Funny Team, you know, jokes aside, they're no joke. They've got some serious potential. I mean, we're talking Overwatch League talent, we're talking people who have been around contenders, World Cups, pretty much everything path to pro you could ever imagine. But they're struggling, Moxie, and honestly, I feel like it's not even on an individual level, right? Before the match, we talked about how YEPEZ, right, individually, they're extremely strong and they can pull themselves ahead because of that, but I feel like Funny Team's coordination hasn't been up to the level of YEPEZ yet.
It's a little bit skew with on the very important moments, right? When you want to be able to hold off on the ultimates, unless that's really important, unless you absolutely must have to invest both support ultimates at the same time. If you want to go for the sort of Tracer versus Zenyatta play, you're going in on your own against a Zenyatta that's already proven he can stand his own up against the best Tracers, the best Genjis. Sometimes you really do just have to use your team. There are 5 other players coordinating around with you, and I would like to see, especially on Junkertown, where you look at how hard it can be for one DPS to try and go for that 1 versus 1 against the other side. And sometimes it isn't even a 1 versus 1. Sometimes if a team decides the other Widowmaker just doesn't get to play, it's a 1 versus 4, it's a 1 versus 5, it's a 1 versus a Hammond who just decides to stick continuously to your side like white on rice. And so I think we're going to see 2 sides to Funny Team with potentially 2 different results. If they do start having a little bit more coordination, if we see that their roles start really trying to help each other out, and they try and zone out the other side, they try to buy up space by their tanks, creating more for their DPS to deal with, then we're going to see them go far in this map. If they continue, if they show what they've been showing through this series with Li Zhang, then we're going to have a very, very short series indeed.
Yeah, and while we're interested to see what compositions these guys run out on, we suspect there's going to be a little bit of Orisa Hog thrown into the mix. Let's see what we've got loaded up on today's menu. Of course, for YEPEZ, it's the double sniper, full-on Orisa Hog. They're going just old school stage 4 Owl, and I'm here for it, Mox.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this was the composition that they were able to use to win up against Hot Bath on this very map yesterday. Something to note though is they are running Mercy Zenyatta on defense, and that's a risk. It means that you are putting all of your eggs into the basket of damage. With that orb of Discord just amplifying it by 30%, and then the Mercy damage boost on top of that, those DPS and even Harblue on that Roadhog is going to be very, very deadly. But what you don't have is a lot of sustain. That's why you see the Roadhog with the Take a Breather, to make sure that support lineup isn't given too much train, that the straw does not break the camel's back. The second you get pressed, the second absolute burst damage comes through on one of those squishies, they are going to be gone in a matter of seconds, and it becomes a question of, can you get that res off?
Yeah, it's going to be really tricky for Funny Team to work around these shields, because with all that damage, yes, it's risky, yes, there's a vulnerable support line, but there's almost no chance of Funny Team being able to match it shield-wise, because YEPEZ are just going to burst them pretty much immediately. The one thing that Funny Team has, though, is a boatload of pick potential here. They're running a double sniper of their own. They can take a lot of angles. The Wrecking Ball can go to town. And honestly, I've been wanting to see it. I haven't seen it since, what, 2 Contenders trials ago? Monk Mudda's Widowmaker. Please give me a little bit of that. Him working around the side lane might just be what cracks this nut.
I mean, the other thing that really could be that spanner in YEPEZ's plans, it's the tank lineup. Because you talk about how, yes, it's the Sigma shield and you're going up against a Hanzo with storm arrows and damage boost, it's going to be gone within seconds, but it's going to be a lot more mobile than shock shield. So Monk Mudda and Donnie don't have to worry about finding all of these different angles that Craggy and Kathy are going to have to try and work around.
Oh no, Coffee's already got one! Zermajit square out of spawn is taken out. The shields are low. The halt is in onto Krandop. Dropped low. With a Resurrect, Funny Team are just playing until they get around the corner, and then Coffee's just going to send him right back where he came from. There's no res for that one, Mux.
Funny Team just cannot coordinate the dive right now. Krandop tries to go in, and he gets halted, he gets hooked, he gets immediately burnt down, and because Hammond is a big old meaty target, look at the ult charges for YEPEZ.
Yeah, this requires such a steady hand to try and push in against this Roadhog Orisa composition. There's so much big potential. Mukmada trying to sneak around the side, but there's no value to realistically be had there. And just getting past this first little bit of choke, this first little bit of threat, is going to be maybe just the hardest part of this map for YEPEZ.
Especially with how YEPEZ are playing so aggressively on that main road. You do manage to pick up the Mercy though, and that is going to stem quite a lot of aggression from the defense. You can already see them vacating that main road that they were previously so stubbornly set on.
Yeah, as if they didn't already have so little heals. Without the Mercy, it becomes so much more difficult. And now Harblu gone. The Resurrect odds are slim to none because they need to make sure Shock stays up on the other side. But they'll go down as well. Coffee at this point is just contesting the cart for contesting the cart's sake. Does get Mukmada in his spare time though, which might give them room for a recontest if they get back in time.
Well, Harblu is trying to do exactly that. The tanks are switching into these really mobile heroes, Hammond and Winston, so you can get back, keep this contest moving through. Cappy's even going to send a Dragon Strike, rolling all the way through the map just to zone Funny Team a little bit longer off this card.
Holy, that came from downtown, but the recontest will get through, and Craigie needs to open this up on the Widowmaker, needs to start making some sightlines happen, otherwise the tanks are going to be in a world of hurt. Krandop takes down Shock, the supports can't get out of the choke point with the threat of all those snipers, and therefore it's going to be Funny Team cruising through point A.
Funny Team picking up the stragglers as well, guaranteeing that YEPEZ cannot just set up their snipers on this high ground. Now you have to pay the toll that Mukmada and Danye are going to be posing. It's going to be extremely awkward, pardon the pun, for them to actually be able to get in. Because you've got Finsley sitting up on this high ground waiting with that Sigma Flux. And the second that Awkward actually uses that Transcendence, you are just going to be the green light for Danye to send in this Dragon Strike and pick up all of the kills anyway.
Danye's been doing it for so long. There's so many ultimates that they have at their disposal, but they've taken out Gustav. That's a pretty big advantage. No chance of the Valkyrie. In fact, excuse me, it was canceled out. Got a little bit of something there, but Danye is going to town now, trading that one kill out for Awkward, throwing in the Dragon Strike, and this is where that ultimate advantage comes to play. They can continue to poke from long range, and this full dive composition YEPEZ are running can't really set up properly.
Especially because that Dragon Strike, while it didn't pick up kills, it actually zoned ML7 on that Mercy away from the team in the entire duration. So Funny Team are still able to make that damage stick.
Yeah, this is painful right now for YEPEZ. They're bleeding out one member at a time, just continually contesting the cart. And honestly, this is what it looked like at the end of point A as well. Not really able to get a solid contest off, and now with a massive time bank, Funny Team are going to be heading on into point C.
YEPEZ can't even really use this Transcendence to try and play Minesweeper either, with the rate that Donnie has been able to just load damage in on the Hanzo. Yes, he's only 58% to the next Dragon Strike, but that is easily closed up when you don't have a shield to burn through.
Yeah, there's no shields on the way. There's so much damage from both these sides. It's such a volatile fight that could explode at any point. But for Funny Team, it's fantastic because they have so much space to work with. You can see the Sigma paired up with the Widowmaker, constantly giving him a shield to work with. But Coffee! Oh, what a way to fight back! What a way to get that space back that you wanted so badly. A pulse bomb onto 2, punishes the aggressive positioning, and sends them right on back.
And now it's that exact same advantage that we see so often on point C. For that defending team, but not if Shock goes too aggressive. Tries to find Mukmada and immediately gets punished for it. And now Harblu completely zoned out all the way behind enemy territory, though. And you've got Donnie just waiting with the Dragon Strike, trying to find Awkward to make sure that the Transcendence is either bullied out or just like non-existent.
I mean, between Harblu looking like a child lost in a Walmart and the rest of his team completely sent back to spawn, it's going to be a rough fight, but they finally connected back with one another. They finally got the space they need, diving straight onto the supports. You can tell Shock is in for blood, doing everything he can to take out the Zenyatta, but no! Zermajit will get the better. Coffee will come in and clean up, though, finally finishing off those health bars, but just barely, as Gustav still has the Valkyrie pump, Zermajit still has the Transcendence in his backline, and Funny Team still have plenty of tools to try and win away this fight.
They're even trying to come back in as quick as possible. Danny is on to the soldier just to give it a little bit of extra speed boost, but Caffey can really try and finish off this fight So much at use Transcendence does not have it to try and keep himself alive through the pulse bomb.
Oh, such a huge pick from Craigie as well. Takes out the soldier. There was next to no damage running out with Funny Team outside of the tanks. The Widowmaker couldn't hit the shots because the shields were blocking her sightlines, and now you're looking at another very costly reset from Funny Team.
Especially because Funny Team, even though they have this Hammer Mine locked and loaded and ready to go, what can you actually do with it other than clear the cart for a couple of seconds? And even then, ML7 could just float over it with this valve. We're very mobile, keeping the entire team alive. What you have to use is the D.Va Bomb, and it has to be huge.
Well, we're trading out supports now. This fight will get bloody real quick with the significant lack of heals. Craigie under a ton of pressure, though. Getting an Orb of Harmony to help himself out. There's fights going on either end of the battlefield, though, and it's YEPEZ winning theirs far more successfully. Both the tanks going in, a Harblu in shock, getting massive amounts of value on the back line, and resetting Funny Team again before they even get near the cart.
Shock getting value not just from himself, but for the support lineup as well. His HP was an absolute sliver, but he's still able to get out intact. And it means that Awkward and ML7 are trying to get these support ultimates online as quickly as possible. Awkward even has the Transcendence now, so when Finz's bomb comes out, you've got to immediately latch onto it, immediately initiate, and try and hope that the confusion, the chaos, is going to leave YEPEZ's communications in disorder.
Oh, it's free real estate right now for Craigie. Unlimited sightlines, unlimited shots. I mean, this is a Widowmaker's dream at this point. Just get to go to town on the support. There's 4 players back here, and they're still winning the fight. They did finally lose Shock. Harblu stuck up there. Actually, wait a minute. That was a big overcommitment by the tanks, Moxie. A step way too far by YEPEZ.
Absolutely. If you're Funny Team, you can try and move in on this. You're trying to move in on Craggy to make sure that Simajek can actually survive. He's got the Transcendence. He's got that tool Funny Team need to survive this massive big old sustain fight that's going to be coming out in a couple of seconds. And the bomb, it picks up the one player it needed, but Mercy is gone.
ML7 was so close to the Valk as well. Funny Team are going to push in with his entire ult bank and try and really create an advantage here. They spotted a chink in the armor, and now they just want to break it wide open. However, Gustav back, the res in. Funny Team using everything in the kitchen sink in this fight. Same with YEPEZ, but the cart still progresses forward for Funny Team, although it's at a spawn disadvantage.
Funny Team still have the Hammond Mines as well. They've dropped them. They're trying to just limit YEPEZ's mobility, make sure that the cart can roll forward as far as they possibly can grab it uncontested.
Yeah, Funny Team, in their own right, are trying to recontest this, regroup as well, get 6 members, but Craigie on the long sidelines. There's no Tracer because they got zoned off so well by Awkward. The space is fantastic for YEPEZ to come in, utilize these spawns, and all the time they kicked off the clock at the beginning of Point C to hold on to this map one more time and give themselves a very clear win condition for the series.
Craggy is just completely uncontested right now. Whoever is able to keep the Widowmaker in that last fight has such a huge advantage because everyone's focus in overtime is on the fight happening in front of them. No one turns around to deal with something like, say, a Bastion, a Torbjorn, or a Widowmaker. And that's why we see it so often. The defending team roll it out in that overtime fight, park it on the sidelines, completely uncontested, and just get to rain shot after shot after shot. And when you're at this level, when you're at this type of tournament where you're fighting for that spot in Contenders Trials, those Widowmakers, they're not going to miss.
Yeah, and you know, for all that I've built up Monk Mutta, I feel like Craigie's been the better one on the day. You know, you can't take away from Craigie, obviously extremely experienced, but to get that much value is just obscene, and a lot of it does come down to the tanks making that much room for him.
The thing was, YEPEZ's tanks, when they went in, were able to get out. A lot of the time when we saw Funny Team trying to go in, they sacrificed their own ult charges. You look at how they acted on point A, how often we saw Crandrop immediately yanked out when he goes for that dive because there just isn't anything really supporting the hamster other than his own shielding.
Well, let's see if they can get past this composition. It gave Funny Team a lot of trouble on the attacking side. On the defensive side, though, we've got a few more angles to play with, but that cart isn't going to stop rolling for anybody with the shield attached to it.
You've still got to worry about the exact same problem if you're crowned up too. It's going to be the Orisa Hog, so every single time you roll in, that hook, that hole, it's going to be there to ruin your day.
Let's see what kind of value they can get. Craigie around the side now, peeking his head in, and it's effectively a game of whack-a-mole between Monk Mutta and Craigie. The question is, who's the mole and who's got the hammer right now? Well, Craigie had a bit of trouble. Crandop has spotted him out, but Danye's got the first pick on Harblu. Harblu taking away a lot of the teeth from this push without the threat of that halt hook.
Cappy, though, residing on catwalk on the high ground, trying to limit Roundup's movement, make sure that the hamster cannot go in and bully the Mercy. And the Zenyatta doing a really good job, actually, of keeping all of Funny Team in check. In fact, they even force back their cowering. They've got their tails between their legs.
This is exactly what we're talking about, though. There's not that much space for Funny Team. They rely on picks, and they're getting them. Monk Mutta and Danye finally finding a bit of connection after the cart's made it about 75% of the way through. It's at least a breath of fresh air for the red side.
Especially because Funny Team are about to hit ultimates. You're going to have the Valkyrie, you're going to have the Transcendence. It's a little bit more of sustain, it's a little bit bigger of a cushion than is going to be available to YEPEZ, because YEPEZ have the aggression, but a whole hog is very hard to actually accurately land, especially when you've got Finzi on that Sigma with Kinetic Grasp.
Holy cow, Danye just got blasted off into nowhere. Gustav, though, luckily gonna find his corpse and res it right back up. Dragon straight through. Funny Team trying to fight their way back out of this choke point. They've done so successfully at the very low on, though. Craigie somehow still alive after all that damage, but it's given enough space for Danye to take down Shock. Without the main tank, this push is gonna fall apart for YEPEZ. It revolves so much around that Orisa, and when that shield goes down, well, it's game over.
Well, it's going to revolve less around that Orisa now. Harblue is onto the Hammond. He's going to do the exact same thing as Crandup's been doing all of these previous pushes. Annoy, separate, and conquer in separate pockets. In fact, Cappy's even going to go for the exact same playstyle as Harblue. He's off in his own magical mystery adventure.
Well, he's definitely somewhere. He's made enough space though for his team to find one pick. We trade out both of the Wrecking Balls, and now it's just Shields against Shields, Orisa against Sigma, this time not on the same team. Monk Mutta, though, gets the better of Craigie with a body shot, the Bandit himself, to try and give his team the room they need to retake this cart. YEPEZ, though, continue to push forward with the help of this Orisa. That shield is so strong, and with Cappy pushing around the backside, they've got a great pincer onto the high ground. With Finzi and Crandup alive, there's so much sustain from Funny Team that they should be able to take this one away.
It's such a gamble, too. You can see Crandup trying to just hold onto those hammer mines as long as he possibly can, so that you can still guarantee, with that cart being so close to that next checkpoint and there being so little time left, you can zone YEPEZ out long enough for this Dragon Strike, long enough for this Valkyrie to come through from your team.
Yeah, and honestly, with a minute left on the clock, this is looking really, really good for Funny Team. I mean, one more hold from now and you're looking at probably an overtime push from YEPEZ, so it's definitely a bit of a desperation position. Both Awkward taking out their Majid, but pretty good start to the fight. Resurrect will bring them back, but there's a distinct lack of support for the tanks right now. Oh, Moxie. Oh no. Alright, well, Charlie and I are down, going to point B. That time bank that I mentioned, completely null and void. YEPEZ, well, they're not happy to see it, but they'll take it.
I mean, they'll take the kills in the kill feed coming up too at the moment, and in a couple of seconds, they'll take the high ground as well. And that's where you really want to be on Junkertown Point B, as they're going to take even more staggers too, which means they're taking even more space. They're doing a lot of taking right now, Joe, in fact. So Funny Team are going to be doing a lot of swapping. You can already see the Soldier, you can already see the Brigida, and that means that they are really going to be quite handy at countering dive. You'll have the Break Bash there, you'll be able to keep some Majad safe when Caffey tries to come for his head, and Danye can now really try and challenge this backline, really pressure out the Widowmaker, because you've got the self-sustain in your healing.
I need healing. Take your medicine.
Yeah, there's so much space, and YEPEZ, not only did they gain space, I mean, you said it, they gained ultimate charge as well. This has given this push entirely new life to cruise through B. Crazy takes down Monk Mutta. There's no threat to the Widowmaker anymore. These sightlines are going to be free as well, with the mines up in front of them. Dropping down on this cart just isn't an option for Funny Team. They're held up onto the high ground to their heart's content. They can fire away at Craigie, they'll get him, but they absolutely will not get the cart.
That's the big old con when you swap your composition up like that. You reset all of your ultimate bars, and you've got to be able to win the fight in that neutral space, right? When no one's using ultimates on kills and kills alone to be able to actually stand a chance. Now, however, though, you are starting to creep in towards these ultimates. Not the rally, but the tag visor, and that's the one thing that really poses a problem for YEPEZ when they're only running the Winston bubble.
Funny Team now entirely grouped up into one corner. Oh no. Cappy can smell the pulse bomb on him. That's a 2K waiting to be had. And especially with the kinetic grasp taken out. Oh no, that's a very, very dead support. No! Somehow he gets out alive! They're gonna pop trance and go for the fight. Funny Team need to start winning this one now. Great anti-nade though, thrown in by ML7 to ensure it connects, and YEPEZ have canceled out a whole host of ultimates to keep this cart rolling.
And Funny Team just don't have the sustain available for YEPEZ right now in this next fight. You don't have the rally, you just got bullied out of your Transcendence. YEPEZ have aggression in the form of the Nano, they can give it onto Shock. They can even, if they're feeling like it, give it onto Cappy to allow this Tracer to hit that Pulse Bomb in absolute breakneck speed.
There's so many threats. The Transcendence alone could cancel a majority of the ultimates. Gonna be popped, used to cancel the Gravitic Flux. Craigie taking down Gustav, taking away a ton of their own sustain. The Wrecking Ball goes down. That might just be it. Moxie, YEPEZ to send themselves onto a 3-0. Just need to take out a Sigma right now. The mine should be enough. They've done it. YEPEZ continue their streak through the Monkey Bubble Banana Brawl.
The Funny team, unfortunately, you could see the panic when they swapped that Brigader and Soldier. That dive was coming through, it was absolutely brutal. They were being bullied out of every sort of utility they wanted to keep a hold of. They were being bullied out of space, they were being bullied out of ultimates, and even when the swap came through, the exact same problem still carried on with it.
Oh my, every time I watch one of Shock's Primal Rages, I am just in awe of his ability to juggle people to places that they really don't want to be at. And Funny team, well, they're going to another place they really don't want to be at. That's the losers bracket, Mox.
Yeah, it is a double elimination bracket though, so you do still have your shot. Anime redemption arc, come on. Everyone loves an absolute underdog, and you do have that chance. You can still continue your victories, rise up, and contest your place in the upper bracket. But we do have to give it up for YEPEZ. This is a team that once again has been able to see themselves through a 3-0. At some points, you could really see that the score might be a little bit closer than that final benchmark, but in others, the difference was very clear to see. YEPEZ were just able to win the individual fights, the mechanical fights. They were able to bully Funny team out of the spacing, out of the positioning, where a defending team really wants to be standing a little bit too many times.
Yeah, and for as good as they look, for as hard as they fought, Funny team go down to the losers bracket. And guess what, ladies and gents? There's me a losers bracket match coming up in just a bit. It's Where's My Team versus Hostile Takeover coming up just after the break.
But apparently we're going to be waiting just a little bit for that break to come on through. So, Joel, who would you say is your MVP? I know my personal opinion, but I'll let you say yours, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
I mean, I'll dote over Shock's Primal Rages any day of the week. The Winston was just absurd. And in the dive versus dive matchup, especially when things broke down and the Wrecking Ball started getting played and everyone was going everywhere, I feel like it was actually the Winston that was the difference maker a majority of the time.
This is the personal player bias, right? Tank mains always like to praise other tank mains, and support mains always like to praise other support mains, because I've got to give it up to YEPEZ's support lineup. You want to have a support lineup that doesn't get noticed a lot. You want to have a support lineup that are able to keep themselves alive. And the amount of times that I saw Awkward coming in on that third DPS slot Zenyatta, I lost track. This guy was on absolute fire all the way through those 3 maps.
Yeah, it was a rough go for Funny team because of the support lineup. And I would absolutely agree. ML7 was also ridiculous. And I think the hardest thing here is actually just playing that Ana. Right, there's a reason we didn't see Funny team run it so often, and that's because it's difficult. It's hard to stay alive, and while there may not have been like super crazy 6-man anti-nades, there may not have been absurd sleeps, ML7 stayed alive. And I think that's more impressive than anything else in a match like this.
And it carried through into the Mercy as well. Remember, we saw him juggle up that Mercy roll a couple of times and still managed to keep himself alive, still managed to use that Valk proactively to keep the rest of the team the same.
Yeah, and I mean, they gave it their best shot, but down to the losers bracket they go. And honestly, I mean, looking at it, you got Chicken Nuggies, Astral. I can't say it with a straight face. We've got Chicken Nuggies in the losers bracket right now. Astral Thunder, Where's My Team, in Hostile Takeover. We've got that second matchup coming up in just a bit, though, ladies and gentlemen. So stay tuned. I promise you guys the next match, but I faked you out yet again. My deception skills continue to rise. We've got Hard Blue in for an interview instead. Grand Victor and Grand Poobah of the Wrecking Ball from the prior match, looking really good doing it. Congratulations on continuing the 3-0 streak somehow. And you and I were talking a little bit in between while we were going through that little Opera GX break. You're looking to go undefeated through the whole thing. What's your plans?
I mean, yeah, I guess that's the goal at this point. Like, when we first signed up, you know, we saw there was, like, plenty of other teams that had, like, a good amount of, like, contenders talent. I think that team we just played had former Owl player on it, even. So we knew that there would be, like, a bunch of, like, different good teams in it the farther we progressed in the tournament. But so far, every set, we've started out strong. And I think a good part of us is once we win that first map, we do a good job at, like, carrying the momentum through. And, yeah, I think at this point we're at 12-0, so I guess in the grand finals our goal is to try and see if we can finish it out undefeated. That'd be pretty cool.
Okay, I've got to ask. I've been stalking all of the VODs. I've been looking at every single composition you guys have played on Junkertown, and it's always included Orisa Roadhog. What is the brain behind that?
Well, so that's always kind of been like the layout of Junkertown kind of incentivizes like Roadhog Orisa. Like it's been like that for like 3 years now, pretty much, where just like the long sightlines at first point make it where you can go for like easy engage picks, which right there against the team we just played, against Zen, it's a bit harder to run the Roadhog just because once he puts Discord on you, you are kind of just like a damage sponge. So I switched off pretty fast the Ball against that because we realized against like the Zen, if we just go Ball Winston and dive it together, it's pretty much a guaranteed kill, as opposed to like Diva Ball, which they're running, doesn't have quite as much dive potential. So we just decided to go like a very aggressive dive into it, and it worked out really well. But yeah, you know, Junkertown's always been like the Roadhog map. I always like playing a little bit of Roadhog, so it was nice to be able to get to play a little bit of it again.
Now, we've seen you guys run a whole host of compositions, but up until now, it's really been you guys in the driver's seat choosing how the maps go. I mean, there's adaptation in there, but you haven't been forced to adapt too many times. What was it like playing up against a team that, I mean, even though it was a 3-0, right, they put you up against the ropes a couple of times with those compositions and forced you to swap. Were you ready for it? Were you feeling like you would need to today coming into it?
Yeah, so a few of us watched like part of the VODs from yesterday against the team we just played and saw them that they ran a lot of that Ball Diva stuff. So we knew they'd be running like a very heavy dive comp with probably Pharah and stuff. So our initial goal was to start on the Zarya Winston, which we ran a lot of yesterday. But it was pretty obvious that like Zarya wasn't going to be able to get enough value. So at that point, all of us have like very good flexibility in terms of hero pools. You know, myself, I can go like Ball, Zarya, Hog, any of that. So we just decided to switch and play similar to their style, just go for that aggressive dive. And I guess we just played it a bit better, and it worked out for us. So yeah, we had a couple of comps like in mind, and we also have like a lot of players who are like very smart when it comes to the game, so we have like a lot of input on people trying to figure out what to swap to, so it's worked out well.
So then, talking about a lot of smart people on your team, obviously a very recognizable team, a lot of personalities floating around. Do you have a designated shot caller, or does everyone just sort of try and speak?
It really is everyone. Like I'd say I call a lot in like pushes, like when I'm, like, especially when I'm on Wrecking Ball, I'll normally call like the engage because I'm normally the first one in going for like the pile driver. But it really is like everyone's talking a lot and giving input, which is good. Like there's sometimes where it gets like a little hectic, where it's hard to like tell who's trying to call what. But in general, especially as we've like played more together and like progressed, the comms have gotten a lot better, and like the structure to it's gotten a lot better. And obviously the results kind of speak for themselves. It's worked out really good. Which there's like a lot of these times like these stream teams become a thing where like, you know, popular streamers make teams, and more often than not, they don't win, and the teams like end up going out in like semifinals or like quarterfinals or something like that. So for us to have progressed where we have I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, ladies and gents, you've heard it from Harblue himself. He's just built different, and this entire team is as well. They look really, really good right now. I'll give you your one spot. Right, you got your wins. You're 12-0. You're on your soapbox. Is there anything you want to say to your teammates? Anyone you want to shout out? Or any messages to send to everybody down in the losers bracket before we let you go?
Shoutouts to my org, Luminosity. Just have to throw that out there. They're always pretty cool. Other than that, thanks to Shock for asking me to come like join his team. He's the one who pretty much put it all together, and it's been very fun to play with. Even on like European ping, like I get like 120. It's really not been that bad, and it's been like a very fun group to play with. So we're looking forward to whoever we play against in the finals.
All right, congrats again, man, and good luck in that grand finals. I know you're looking forward to them.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got another matchup coming. I teased it beforehand. We'll finally get to it. I'll stop playing with your emotions. It's going to be Where's My Team and Hostile Takeover in just a minute. You guys won't want to miss this one. We'll be right back.